Alright, everybody. I was really hoping that this wouldn't be the case. I was hoping that Joe Rogan was actually improving in regards to the platforming and spreading of misinformation. I'm genuinely curious if you felt the same way that I did, chat. Like, do you guys feel like he was improving? I feel like the recent stories I've covered in regards to him have been either his live producers or him fact-checking or pushing back against misinfo from right-wing pundits that he has on his show. It's not that he's stopped having those people on, it's more so that he's had a more responsible go of things lately, it feels like, which is why I'm really disappointed to talk about this, but a lot of people in chat say no, some people in chat say yeah, kinda. I mean, hey, if you're watching this as a clip when this goes up as a video, comment down below. I'm genuinely curious. Have you guys felt like Joe Rogan was getting better in regards to his platforming of misinfo and pushing back against it? Because the last two stories we covered had to do with him dunking on Matt Walsh, and the other one was him fact-checking some conservative pundit about, I think it had to do with, like, a statistic or something like that. Which was the same thing as the Matt Walsh one, but I don't remember what the other one was exactly. But it feels like he's been improving to me, but clearly not after what you see here. Now, to be fair, this was posted by a conservative, like, grift blue checkmark account on Twitter, so, you know, take this caption with a grain of salt, but we are still about to watch some crazy shit regardless. Green Lives Matter posted, Cat Williams blows Joe Rogan's mind after he suggests that transgenderism originates from the demon Baphomet and that Hollywood has been pushing us towards these occult themes for decades. Quote, show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully. That's how you understand what a ritual is. 20 years ago, I knew that transgenders was going to be a thing. I guess it's now just quoting, like, the clip we're about to watch, so, I mean, let's just watch the clip. Let's just watch the clip. Let's see what this gentleman has to say to Joe Rogan about trans people and their origins having to do with the demon Baphomet. Goofiest thing I've ever heard? Yeah. I think we're going to hear a lot crazier now.
Propaganda in Hollywood movies is built into the ingredients list. It's like if you want flour, you need wheat. You're going to have to get the wheat.
Propaganda for who, though? Like, think about it for 5 seconds. The purpose of propaganda is to convince you to believe in a set of beliefs or an ideology with what end goal? The left is very good at explaining why right-wing propaganda exists, why it is practiced, because the purpose is to draw in as many people as possible in order to gain votes and electoral power so they can secure Trump's power in the presidency, pass that bill that they want to pass that will give the president full legal immunity so he can't be, like, criminally charged for any of his crimes, and then on top of that, to essentially demolish our term limit system, and as many Trump supporters will just outright tell you, make Donald Trump the God Emperor who never has to worry about another election again. They want to destroy our democracy and make it so that the left can never retake power. They don't believe in the concept of there being a democracy. In fact, I believe it was Tim Pool who recently just tweeted straight up, democracy should be illegal, like a couple days ago. He just straight up tweeted, democracy should be illegal. So, do with that what you will. But, like, when I think about propaganda, and they're arguing it's like this woke, progressive, pro-trans propaganda, what's the end goal of that? Like, who wants the pro-trans movement to succeed? Is it the government? Because the government could be anybody. It depends on who's in power. The president isn't the government. The House isn't the government. The Senate isn't the government. Is the Supreme Court the government? Because all these parties tend to be at odds with each other at any given time. So who is behind this? Is it always the Democrats, despite whether or not the Republicans have a supermajority, and they're just able to hide this evil secret plan and all these bills and the funding for these propaganda bills that they're supposedly sending to Hollywood from an entire half or more than half of the House, Senate, or Supreme Court? This makes no sense. The idea that there's some secret undercover agenda being pushed by any group besides, I mean, unless Joe Rogan just wants to bite the bullet and outright say he thinks it's the Jews, which I don't think he'll ever do, then I really can't think of any logical reason for why there would be a conspiracy here. That's the thing at the end of the day. Why would there be a conspiracy? Who is there to profit from this? Why are they profiting from it? And explain to me how grifting or pushing a grift for conservatives wouldn't be more profitable. Like, would it not be more profitable to push anti-trans propaganda? Supposedly, anti-trans people who don't believe in trans rights, are the silent majority. Would they not be then the most, financially effective market to tap into? The fact is they're not. What they're seeing is pop culture marketing itself to the more popular ideology in broader America, which is progressivism. They can't admit that, though, because so much of conservative rhetoric relies on this feigning of winning the culture war, while at the same time arguing that the other side of the culture war is so dangerous you can't let up from fighting the culture war for a moment or the enemy will win. The fact is they don't want to accept that these companies are just marketing what they think will make them the most money, and that's progressive politics. Simple as that. And not to mention, just on a fundamental level, like most art, assuming it's not like committee made, like there's that committee made movies and games and stuff that are like very shoehorned in progressive values and messaging. Like, I'm not going to pretend that doesn't exist or anything, but when it's art that's made by, say, like an indie team or a smaller developer that doesn't have very strong control of like over a publisher, by their publisher or whatever, we're not talking about media that's like made to appeal to a super broad audience. We're talking about media that's made as almost a passion project, as close as you can get to it within the mainstream gaming landscape or movie landscape. And that type of media made by artists that are passion projects are naturally always going to have somewhat progressive leanings in their messaging, in their casting, in their just everything. Like, most of the beloved stories in all of human history have some form of messaging that, when distilled down to its most fundamental idea, conservatives would call it woke today.
And if you want to be able to make movies about certain subjects, you have to be willing to work with some people. That, you know, it would be nice if you made it so that this is what we're trying to accomplish, and this is showing the negative side of this other society. And this.
I will say I have to be like very sparing with how much of these clips that I show, because Joe Rogan and his clips will get you copyrighted. So you kind of have to be like super duper careful posting these, because YouTube will like copyright the stream. Like they'll detect it and they'll pause the stream. So if the stream does get temporarily taken down, which it might, just be patient. All I have to do is stop showing and playing the video, and the stream will come back on its own. It sucks, but when it comes to YouTube live streams and copyright, YouTube likes to shoot first and ask questions later. Not a fan, but it's the website I work my job on. Gotta love it.
This is and this is our hero. This is our hero who's going to go do America's bidding and go over there, and you're like, okay. And those movies are successful, and so they continue this relationship. And you become a bit of a propaganda arm for the government. And in turn, they don't fuck with you.
Is he talking about trans, like, woke propaganda? Or is he talking about the literal real-life way in which movie producers can get into contact with the U.S. military, and as long as their messaging in said movie isn't anti-military and is, like, screened and approved by the U.S. military, they will lend, like, millions of dollars in tanks, equipment, uniforms, whatever is needed for the sake of sets and filming of the movie. Because our military recognizes that having movies that present the U.S. military in either a neutral or positive way is a good thing. and they want to help make more of those movies and keep that kind of stuff in pop culture. So recruitment rates are high, and the funding rates are high, and public approval rates are high. There's a lot of reasons why. Feeding into that general militaristic ideation that Americans have.
Right. But that's what makes information so powerful is, you don't care how people feel about the ritual. It's about does following the ritual work. Yeah. And so you can fool yourself into thinking there isn't one, but the evidence will be clear. So like when I be like, oh, these guys are wearing dresses. Everybody's like, oh, he keeps talking about people wearing dresses. No, it's not.
That is a weird thing.
It's not like that. Look at it from a different way. Look at it. Show me one person that ever wore a dress in Hollywood unsuccessfully. That's how you understand what a ritual is. So 20 years ago, I knew that transgenders was going to be a thing. It wasn't because I was a prophet. It's just I had gotten so...
Damn. Holy shit. 20 years ago, he predicted transgenders would be a thing. Oh my god. Guys, as you all know, it's all been a given. Like, trans people started existing, in the last decade when Tumblr started happening and the internet came around. So, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, saying that trans people would be a thing, that's an impressive prediction. As we all know, they didn't exist back then. They didn't exist at all. Now, this is absolutely, in your face, obviously fucking stupid. Trans people have always existed. It's only more recently in the last, 10, 15 years that we've seen a spike in acceptance and sort of attention brought to trans people, their lives and their struggles. And this has happened every time a minority group finally gets some level of recognition. There are always people who come out of the woodwork with different ways of trying to attack that group and its, claim to having equal rights. And in this case, this guy's trying to claim that whole trans thing, it's this fad that came out of nowhere, that Hollywood's pushing it. And, I knew it would be coming decades ago, as if trans people didn't already exist. As if there aren't literally articles from the 1920s about, ex-Navy men becoming ex-Navy women, And it was not negatively covered in media back then because the conservative establishment hadn't demonized it the way that they have today yet. The LGBT community wasn't necessarily liked, but it wasn't really defined, for one thing, on one hand. And it also wasn't there wasn't a culture war back then the same way there is today. The internet has really divided politics more than ever. There's been no bigger divider of people in politics besides the internet and the printing press, and maybe radio and TV. But I honestly think the internet has had the biggest impact since the printing press.
So much information that I understood that things are secular. So I understood that the earliest I had seen that word transgender was Baphomet, the transgender.
Huh? Fill me in here, chat. Is that the origin of the term transgender? I was under the impression the term transgender refers to... Well, my understanding was before transgender, it was transsexual people tend to use. And then modern day, the reason the word trans is used is because it's a reference to chemistry. When it comes to was it chiral whatever the fuck, and you get a cis trans chiral pair bond or it's some chemistry shit. Okay, you can look it up, but literally the term trans and cis literally come from chemistry. Like it comes from chemistry, and so. The idea that it comes from the Bible, I mean, science language is Latin, so maybe like it could work, but it doesn't really vibe with me because transgender is a relatively new word. I think it's like transgender people have existed for a long time, but that phrase is pretty new.
And so I knew that in the ritual of Baphomet, the transgender, to show a
Baphomet is an intersex creature. He's grasping at straws. Oh, okay. So it's because Baphomet like displays the physical traits of like a bunch of different things, including a man and a woman human. That means Baphomet is transgender, and that means that transgender people are demonic. I see. I see. He's literally just on like an actual like religious schizo spree.
allegiance to him, you had to kiss his ass ring.
Really?
And it said both of those things. So I knew that both of those things.
I need to get as high as this guy is right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a few more hits because if this guy's literally on Joe Rogan, the biggest podcast in the world, this high, I get to be higher than I am right now to endure this. Okay, I need to be on this dude's level.
Things will become popular in the future, and that somehow calling people the GOAT would be normalized over.
No fucking shot. He's actually trying to argue that saying someone is the GOAT, that is to say the greatest of all time, he predicted it because it is a reference to the decline of society into Satanism, because it's a reference to Baphomet. When you say someone's the GOAT, that's fucking crazy. Oh my god. There's no way conservative Zoomers fall for this. There's no way conservative Zoomers who like to call their favorite YouTuber the GOAT are actually going to fall for the claim that it has ties to demons and Baphomet. This is actual satanic panic. Ass ring? I think he means like the Pacific Rim there.
The sheep being always the most popular reference.
God damn, we got some good weed, Cat. Jesus Christ.
This must be the weed
I'm
talk.
trying to figure out how to
I think
jump
it's
in
the
on
weed.
that.
I'm trying to get there.
Right. Which is my only goal.
I always wonder whether or not all the stories in the Bible, it's just where we are experiencing it. Like
Come on, Joe. Really? Is this where he's at now? Is this where the Joe Rogan experience has gotten to? Is that where we're at now? 2024 Joe Rogan is, I oftentimes wonder if the stories in the Bible are true and if we're not living them now. Really? This is 2024 Joe Rogan. Who could have predicted this back in 2021? I think most people.
the mark of the beast
Honestly.
thing that we were talking about earlier. If that is not, I think if you had to tell a story for so many years
Yeah.
before anybody ever even figured out how to write it down, and you're telling a story about a civilization that allowed people to put brain implants in them, and then all of a sudden the brain implants were hijacked by machines, and people became
This guy is friends with Elon Musk. The guy who's doing the brain implants is Elon Musk. Wait, are they going to bring up Elon Musk? I guarantee you they don't. They're just going to reference that thing Elon Musk is doing, and somehow that is part of the left degrading society? Elon Musk is doing Neuralink. Does Joe Rogan all of a sudden not like Elon Musk? Is he all of a sudden a Satan worshiper? Is he all of a sudden implanting people with the mark of the beast?
just meat zombies controlled by corporations. That would be the mark of the beast. That would be a demonic thing.
I guess it's been a thing
If
for a
if
long
a
time,
demon-
but Elon Musk is the guy doing brain implants right now. Let's be honest. Neuralink is the most well-funded, well-publicized brain implant program out there. Like, it is the biggest brain implant well-known. No, it is probably the most well-funded. There's no way it's not the most well-funded, unless, like, there are governments out there doing programs for, like, brain implants, which is probably true, but we wouldn't know about it, right? Not yet.
Demon tricked human beings into wearing a hat that turned you into a zombie. That demon would be like a famous character in books and folklore. But that demon exists, and it's just technology. It just shows itself through this desire for the newest, latest innovations that are going to constantly fuel it becoming more and more powerful. Until one day it tricks you into letting it into its head, like a vampire.
Notice how it's, like, the most basic, like, my favorite thing about this conservative, like, media grift is that 50% of it is just your shit your parents told you, and the other, like, just, but from somebody that you don't, like, not want to listen to, I guess. And the other half of it is batshit insane stuff. So he's, like, mixing in, like, the internet's bad for you, social media is bad for you, technology addiction is a bad problem, you need to make sure you get outside and you do things that are healthy for you. Like, they'll listen to, like, Andrew Tate or Joe Rogan, whatever, say the same shit their parents have been telling them like, their whole lives. That's half of it. And then the other half is batshit conspiracy stuff. And they buy all of it hook, line, and sinker.
Like the vampire stories, you had to let them in, remember?
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I do not know. I genuinely don't know where Joe Rogan has gotten to at this point. I'm genuinely excited to read the comments on this video when it goes out to see what people's thoughts are on this current state of Joe Rogan, whether they thought he was getting better and this is a surprise to them, or if they've always thought this was the, like, inevitable end goal of where he's heading and there's been no seeming change in that trajectory. I'm really curious to see your reactions in the comments, but good lord, is this really what it's come to? Is he really just now a full-on conspiracy podcast? I feel like anytime you get wealthy, affluent, like, usually white people, but obviously not in this case, but usually white people together that are completely out of touch from the average American or person's experience to talk about the world's problems, it is the perfect way to generate some of the most dumb takes ever that will leave you just enraged as an actually informed person who cares about the issues.